Touré is generally a good progressive on MSNBC. He's on the program The Cycle. On that same program, Krystal Ball had recently done commentary about how Elizabeth Warren should run for president and that it shouldn't be Hillary Clinton, who is the nominee for the Democrats. I love that commentary. I thought it was great. And now, of course, since it's MSNBC, they're going to have to support Hillary as well. Now, Touré stepped up to the plate. We should give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that this is his real opinion. I can guarantee you that someone at MSNBC was going to give this commentary. It happened to be Touré. And so let's find out why he thinks it should be Hillary Clinton and not Elizabeth Warren, who's our nominee for the Democrats in 2016.
Will Dems accept becoming the party of Hillary, led by a careerist centrist who coddles Wall Street, or do they fight to become the party of a true liberal philosopher who's unafraid of Wall Street, like Elizabeth Warren? The rise of the populist wing of real liberalism is thrilling, and I'm proud to vote for that. But unless I move back to Boston, that's not happening, and I'm okay with that. In 1980, I stayed up late watching the returns, knowing that Carter would win, and then
Reagan is our projected winner.
In 1984, it was even more painful.
NBC News now is able to project the re-election of Ronald Wilson Reagan.
In 1988, I interned for the Dukakis campaign, so I was devastated, though not shocked, when
NBC News projecting George Bush the winner tonight in the presidential election.
Between 1980 and 2008, Dems seemed more focused on principle than electability, and they lost 5 out of 7 elections.
Now, wait a minute. You had to go back to 1980 for your first example, right? That's 30 years ago. So then he made it between 19 and 2008, they lost X amount of elections. First of all, Al Gore not only won the popular vote, he won the Electoral College as well, if you counted all of Florida. The Supreme Court decided otherwise. But you can't say that Gore didn't win that election. Clinton won twice, of course. And your examples are 80, 84, and 88. In other words, a long, long time ago. And this is the same old thing that corporatist Democrats have been saying for a long time, which is, oh, no. We have to pick the centrist, conservative Democrat who will do whatever the corporations and the establishment want, because remember Mondale and Dukakis. By the way, we barely remember Mondale and Dukakis. How about the guy who ran in 2008 and 2012 and won those 2 elections? That's the guy who pretended, now it turned out it wasn't true, but pretended to be the most liberal in the race. In fact, he beat your beloved Hillary Clinton from the left. And then they say, oh my, but he's black. He has a Muslim-sounding name. And he's way to the left of Hillary Clinton. And he's saying, change the establishment. He'll never win. Except for the fact that he just won twice. Your example is Dukakis? I got the example of the guy who just won twice. Now, I wish he was 10 times the progressive he claimed to be. But during the elections, he ran as a massive progressive. So it's curious that you got to go back several decades for your examples. But he's going to continue with this nonsense.
But I remember when Dems nominated true liberals and the smartest guys in the party, and the resulting years of losses. In those years, the conservative revolution reshaped America, and Dems were too weak to stop it. So I'm not ashamed to say I'm willing to sacrifice some of what I believe in as a liberal to get behind a moderate Dem who's electable, and you should be too. The party should not be willing to risk a national election to see if the nation is ready for a liberal president, something they haven't even asked since Mondale got crushed. Like him, Warren is a true liberal. But she's also an inexperienced national candidate who fits neatly into the classic caricature of Dems as effete latte-sipping, Volvo-driving Ivy Leaguers. Meanwhile, Hillary is already making Republicans struggle to lay a glove on her. I'm sorry, Benghazi and Monica and Age are not going to win one vote that Hillary could have gotten.
Wait, if she was so electable, how come she got her ass handed to her in 2008? That's kind of interesting. And from a guy who was to the left of her. Wow, that's fascinating. On the other hand, you cite Mondale, Walter Mondale. Okay. Wow, that's a pretty good point. And but to be fair, Elizabeth Warren is an inexperienced senator in her first term. Anybody know an inexperienced senator in their first term who might have won 2 recent elections for president? Yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Touré. I'd have to go back probably to the 1870s to try to come up with an example. And then finally, thank you, Rush Limbaugh, for the effete Volvo point, right? Latte sipping nonsense. But wait a minute, if she's so weak and effete and all that nonsense, how come you said in your first commentary that she's unafraid of Wall Street? Isn't that the strongest possible position you could have in Washington today? To say, I'm going to take on the top lobbyists in the country, the guys who give the most amount of donations to the politicians, the most powerful. Dick Durbin, the second in charge of the Democrats in the Senate, said, frankly, they run the place. They own the place. She's going to take those on. What part of that is a feat? Was she sipping a latte while she kicked Wall Street's ass? While Hillary Clinton goes and sucks up to them? Is that what's so strong? Oh, the powerful in the establishment. Wow, that's so strong. We better go with her, because she's so experienced at kissing ass. All right, more of this nonsense.
And I know liberalism is about dreaming big and wanting to change the world and helping the downtrodden, and I love that about liberalism. But American political change is always incremental, never radical. And the closer your candidate is to the ideological edge of either party, the more radical the change they propose is, then the riskier they are. Demanding ideological purity out of your presidential candidate is the path to defeat.
Oh, I just remembered. No, the first term senator that was inexperienced that won was Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. Silly me. Oh, about the never radical part that you just explained. The guy who brings us change is always incremental, never to the far left, never radical. How about a guy named F.D. frickin' R that said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take on all these guys. I welcome your hatred. I'm going to be called a traitor to my class. And he even went as far as packing the Supreme Court. He went so far that even liberals were like, whoa, that's too far. You've gone too far. That was a radical proposition. Social Security, a radical proposition. The New Deal, a radical proposition. And guess what? He passed them, except for the packing of the Supreme Court, which he really shouldn't have done, okay? And he got massive change, not incremental change, not, oh, we played patty cakes with the Republicans and they let us increase taxes by 6%. All right, more of Touré's nonsense.
Warren is revolutionary because she's new and hasn't had to do the compromising that comes with governing. Hillary has been in the governing class for decades, and getting things done requires compromise. I hope Warren continues to stand down so that the most electable Democrat we've had in decades can win. At a moment when we are looking at a potential 2014 disaster, Dems have got to worry more about pragmatism than about political purity.
This is the same kind of horse crap I've been hearing for the entire time we've been doing this show. No, we should run weak-ass Democrats because it's a pragmatic thing to do. And then what do? They get rolled over by Republicans because they're Republican light. Republican versus a Republican, the Republican always wins. And in this case, they have no strong examples. By the way, we had in 2004 an option. We could have run Howard Dean or we could have run John Kerry. And everybody said, no, Howard Dean is too radical. He's too strong. A progressive will never win. Let's run weak-ass John Kerry, who will say, well, I mean, I voted for the Iraq War, but I didn't really quite mean it. And George Bush is right about most of the things, and we're exceptionalism and all that stuff. And I'm an interventionist, but not quite as much as George Bush. And what happened? I don't have to go back to the 1870s for that example. He got his ass kicked in an incredibly winnable election. And finally, his main argument right there was in the beginning of that clip, where he said Hillary Clinton has been in the governing class for decades, so we should go ahead and trust her. Now, if you're a real progressive and you believe that, I got news for you. You ain't a real progressive. You're pro-establishment and you want to keep doing business just as it is. Let the lobbyists run Washington, our democracy be damned, and you have no interest in actual change, and you just want everything to stay exactly as it is. And that's exactly what Touré's position is. And it is absolute nonsense. It's not right on policy grounds, and it's most certainly not right on political grounds.